It started quietly, too quietly for anyone to notice. At 2:17 a.m. GMT, the world shifted. No one heard an explosion, no one saw a flash. Instead, every living person on Earth felt something slip into their thoughts. It was not a sound, not exactly. More like a breath against the back of the mind. "Peace is good," the voice said. "Stop fighting. Stop thinking." It was calm, soothing even. The kind of voice you'd trust without question. Across cities, people woke in confusion. In New York, a mother dropped her phone as she stared blankly at her reflection in the dark window. In Tokyo, a train operator froze at his controls, the words echoing in his skull. In Johannesburg, a priest fell to his knees mid-prayer, tears streaming as he whispered the same phrase. "Peace is good. Stop fighting. Stop thinking." At first, doctors thought it was mass hysteria, some kind of shared delusion, perhaps triggered by stress or social media. The world was tense. Wars, protests, hunger, politics. Maybe the mind was breaking under pressure. But then came the broadcast. At 8:45 a.m., every major news channel glitched. Anchors, reporters, and weather forecasters went silent mid-sentence, eyes blank, postures stiff. Then in unison they began to speak, word for word in that same chilling tone. "Peace is good. Stop fighting. Stop thinking." It was not a message for peace. It was a command. Within hours, chaos erupted. Hospitals overflowed with people screaming that voices were crawling inside their heads. Paramedics sedated entire crowds. Governments declared states of emergency. But no one knew what they were fighting. There were no bombs, no enemies, just whispers. At the Global Space Agency in Geneva, Dr. Lena Hart stared at the monitor in disbelief. The signal analyzer showed a repeating pattern, pulsing through the atmosphere every 8.3 seconds. Constant, mathematical, and perfect. "It's not random," she whispered. "It's structured," her assistant frowned. "You mean human?" Lena shook her head slowly. "No, it's too efficient for that. The frequency affected every communication system, radio, television, even internet data lines. It was everywhere, woven through everything. A ghost in the air." By afternoon, the panic spread faster than the signal itself. Entire cities fell silent. People stopped talking. Traffic lights flashed over empty roads. In some neighborhoods, everyone simply stood still, breathing, waiting. Then came the first coordinated message. The sky flickered. Every screen, phones, billboards, televisions, lit up with the same glowing symbol. A spiral of light slowly turning, and the voice spoke again, louder this time. "You are not alone. Do not be afraid. We will bring harmony. The Threx Dominion welcomes you." The Threx Dominion, the name alone sent a tremor through the world. It sounded ancient, cold, and absolute. Lena and her team watched as the signal amplified itself, pulsing like a heartbeat through the ionosphere. The frequencies carried more than sound. They carried influence. Neural interference. People were losing their ability to choose. "Turn it off," someone shouted in the control room. "We can't," another replied. "It's in everything. The satellites, the fiber optics, every band is flooded." Governments panicked. The US president went live from a secure underground facility, voice trembling as he addressed the world. "This is not an act of peace. This is invasion." But even as he spoke, the lights flickered behind him and his expression changed. His voice slowed. "Peace is good." The feed cut instantly, leaving the world staring at static. By the third day, more than half the planet had fallen under the influence. Those who resisted began to experience severe headaches, hallucinations, and nosebleeds. Some begged to be controlled again, to feel the peace that others claimed was beautiful. Lena worked without sleep. Every hour the signal grew stronger. The few scientists who remained free discovered that certain brainwave patterns, usually triggered by laughter, fear, or chaos, resisted the frequency for brief moments. But they had no time to study it deeply. Military forces attempted to retaliate, but their drones and weapons turned against them mid-operation. The threats were not just inside human minds. They were inside the machines as well. In Moscow, a squadron of fighter jets veered off course and vanished into the clouds, their pilots smiling blankly. In Beijing, an entire city's surveillance network began projecting the same spiral symbol onto every wall. By now, the whispers had changed tone. They were no longer calm. They were angry. "You resist. You suffer. Stop thinking. The more humans fought back, the more violent the signal became. Some people collapsed, twitching, their minds caught between freedom and control. Lena stood before a window overlooking Geneva's burning skyline. Fires flickered where buildings once glowed. The world, it seemed, had stopped breathing. She recorded a final message into her old analog recorder, one of the few devices not infected. To anyone still hearing this, they are not human. They use thoughts as weapons. Do not listen, find silence, find laughter. Anything unpredictable seems to confuse them. The recorder clicked off just as the power died again. In the darkness, Lena heard it, the whisper, faint but distinct. Inside her skull, "Peace is good." Lena Hart, stop fighting. She pressed her hands over her ears, shaking. "Get out of my head." But the voice was patient, gentle. "Why do you struggle? You will be free soon. You will join the Dominion." She stumbled back against the console. "You don't understand us," she whispered. "We don't want your peace." There was silence for a moment. Then the voice replied, almost curious. "Then you are broken." Lena looked out the window. All across the horizon, strange lights drifted through the clouds. Enormous ships, smooth and silver, their undersides glowing with patterns of alien runes. They weren't attacking, they were watching, waiting. The Threx had arrived. By the end of that week, the world's leaders gathered what was left of their militaries and scientific minds. They called it the Whisper War, not because of explosions or gunfire, but because of what it took to fight it. The war wasn't for land or power. It was for the human mind, and as the whispers grew louder, one thing became terrifyingly clear. Humanity wasn't losing a battle, it was losing itself. The world fell silent. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of minds no longer their own. Streets once filled with laughter and arguments, now echoed with the sound of shuffling feet and empty voices repeating the same words. Peace is good. Stop fighting. Stop thinking. In New York, traffic lights blinked endlessly above motionless cars. In Paris, people stood in lines that led nowhere, eyes blank, waiting for a command that never came. The Threx Dominion had turned humanity into a quiet sea of obedience. Only a few thousand people remained free. No one knew exactly why the signal didn't work on them, but the survivors called themselves the Clear Minds. They hid in underground tunnels, mountains, and abandoned subway systems, whispering plans in the dark while the world above them obeyed. Dr. Lena Hart was among them. She hadn't slept in 3 days. The bunker smelled of metal and oil. Old monitors flickered weakly, running off scavenged batteries. Lena leaned over a radio receiver, adjusting knobs until the static cleared. "Come on, just one clean frequency," she muttered. Finally, a faint human voice broke through. "Clear Minds Safe House, Sector 7, coordinates." The message cut off. A scream followed. Then silence. Lena slammed her hand on the desk. "We're losing more every day." Her assistant, a young engineer named Riley, looked up from a pile of broken laptops. "We can't outfight them, Lena. They're in the air, in the wires, in our heads. We need something they can't predict. Something emotional," Lena replied. "Something that doesn't follow rules." That night, while the others slept, Lena sat alone with a small recording device. She played an old audio clip, a stand-up comedy show from decades ago. The comedian laughed at his own bad joke. It was stupid, meaningless, but somehow it made Lena smile for the first time in weeks. And then something strange happened. For a few seconds, the whisper in her mind, the constant background hum of the Threx voice, flickered. It was as if the laughter had pushed it away. "Wait," she whispered. She replayed the clip, this time louder. The Threx whisper vanished completely for 7 seconds. Lena's eyes widened. She scribbled notes frantically. "It's not the words," she said aloud. "It's the emotion, the unpredictability. They can't process it." The next morning, she ran into the main hall of the bunker. "Everyone listen!" Laughter blocks the signal. The group stared at her. Some thought she'd lost her mind. Riley frowned. "You're saying we fight mind control with jokes?" "Not jokes, emotion," she said. "Anything chaotic, unexpected. They don't understand it." To prove it, she connected a speaker to the surface antenna and played the same laughter recording across an open frequency. For a moment, everyone in the bunker felt the air lighten. The pressure in their skulls, the whispering weight that had been constant, lifted. It worked. Riley laughed nervously. You might have just discovered humanity's most ridiculous weapon. But then the bunker lights flickered, the radios crackled, and an icy voice filled the room. It wasn't human. You interfere. You disturb harmony. Why do you laugh when you should obey? Everyone froze. Lena's heart pounded. The Threks were listening. They had heard her experiment. They're aware of us now, Riley whispered. The voice continued, calm but heavy. Laughter is chaos. Chaos must be corrected. Lena shut off the speakers, trembling. The room fell dark again. They don't understand, she said softly. The world was breaking apart, but somewhere in the ruins, humanity had found a reason to laugh. Deep underground in a bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, the clear minds prepared for their boldest plan yet. They called it Operation Jester. Dr. Lena Hart stood before a cracked whiteboard filled with equations, waveforms, and the one word that had given her hope. Laughter. The plan sounded insane even to her. Use laughter as a weapon. Broadcast it across the planet. Jam the Threk signal using the one emotion they could never understand. Riley, her closest ally, leaned over the radio console. Are you sure this'll work? He asked. Lena looked up, dark circles under her eyes. It's not about working, she said. It's about confusing them long enough for us to fight back. Around them, a dozen survivors, scientists, soldiers, hackers, and even comedians, were wiring together salvaged transmitters. They weren't an army. They were a joke, literally. All right, everyone, Lena said, forcing a smile. Let's make the universe laugh. The group erupted into quiet cheers. Among them was a grizzled radio host named Marco Jest Alvarez, once a famous late-night comedian before the invasion. He sat in front of an old microphone, tapping it gently. Never thought I'd save the world by telling bad jokes, he muttered. Guess I was training for this my whole life. The team worked through the night, connecting amplifiers and antenna arrays across the bunker. They had scavenged parts from old weather satellites and television towers. If their plan succeeded, the laughter signal would bounce off orbiting satellites and reach every city on Earth within minutes. If it failed, they'd be vaporized before the joke even landed. Powering main array in 10 seconds, Riley shouted. The room buzzed as generators roared to life. Marco leaned into the microphone and grinned. Ladies and gentlemen, aliens of all ages, welcome to the first interstellar comedy show. Static filled the room, followed by his laughter, loud, raw, human. Then came a flood of laughter recordings, millions of clips mixed together, echoing through every frequency. The signal shot upward through the atmosphere, hijacking communication satellites one by one. Across the globe, people under Threk's control suddenly froze. Their blank faces twitched. Some smiled for the first time in weeks. The Threk's voice, once calm and perfect, began to distort. Stop. Stop this noise. Lena's heart raced. It's working, she shouted. They're losing stability. But as quickly as hope appeared, it turned to fear. The lights dimmed. Every monitor flickered with alien symbols. Then the voice returned, sharper, angrier, filled with static and rage. You mock the Dominion. You pollute our silence. Why do you laugh? The entire bunker shook as distant explosions rumbled overhead. Riley checked the radar. They're attacking the transmitters. They found us. Keep broadcasting, Lena yelled. Don't stop the signal. Marco slammed his hand on the console. Not a chance. I've still got jokes left. He spoke into the mic. Hey, Threx, you ever hear the one about the hive mind that lost its mind? Oh, wait, you're living it. The bunker filled with laughter, real and recorded, human and wild. The more chaotic the sound became, the more the alien signal broke apart. Outside in the night sky, massive Threx ships hovered above cities, their smooth metallic surfaces rippling as if in pain. Across the world, enslaved humans began to stir. Some screamed, some cried, and others laughed uncontrollably as their minds briefly slipped free. The Threx high frequency was faltering. Lena watched the data spike across the monitor. The alien control network was unraveling, fracturing into millions of disconnected signals. We're destabilizing their neural web, she said, barely believing it. They can't process the emotion, they can't predict it. Riley grinned. Then let's give them more chaos. He cranked the amplifier to maximum. The laughter grew louder, wilder. For a few shining minutes, Earth echoed with human joy. But then everything stopped. The speakers died. The screens went black. Smoke rose from the generators. The entire bunker plunged into darkness. "Power failure," Riley shouted. "They hit the grid." "No," Lena said softly. "They adapted." The alien voice returned, colder than before. "You have corrupted the pattern. You will be silenced." A low hum filled the air. Metal walls began to vibrate. The ground shook violently. Outside, the Threk ships unleashed blinding beams of energy, turning entire sections of the Alps into molten stone. The clear minds ducked for cover as debris rained down. "We can't hold this place," Marco yelled. "Evacuate to Tunnel C." Lena grabbed the portable hard drive with the broadcast data. "We can rebuild the signal somewhere else. Move!" They sprinted through collapsing tunnels, their laughter echoing even as the mountain groaned above them. Behind them, the bunker was obliterated in a storm of light and dust. Hours later, they emerged into a cold, silent valley. The sky glowed red from distant fires. The laughter had stopped, but the damage to the Threks was clear. Lena looked up at the stars and saw alien ships retreating, some drifting aimlessly, their lights flickering. "We hurt them," she said, breathless. "For the first time, they're afraid." Riley nodded. "And that means they can feel." Lena smiled faintly. "Exactly. And if they can feel, they can break." In orbit, intercepted transmissions crackled through the remaining satellites. The Threx hive was in disarray. Fragmented messages echoed across space. Their minds are unstable, unpredictable, uncontrollable. One final message came through before the signal cut off entirely. "They laugh in chaos. They are dangerous." Lena stared at the dark horizon. "Good," she whispered. "Now they finally understand us." Somewhere deep in space, the Threx dominion began to fracture. For the first time in their long, emotionless existence, they knew fear. And on Earth, amid smoke and ruin, the humans laughed again, not in joy but in defiance. Operation Jester was over, but its echo would soon shake the stars. The Threx did not retreat for long. Their silence was brief, their fury eternal. Within days of Operation Jester, the skies above Earth filled once again with their ships, vast silver leviathans pulsing with blue light, spreading the same mental fog that had enslaved billions. But this time something was different. Humanity was no longer silent. From the ashes of broken cities, laughter still echoed. Dr. Lena Hart stood on the roof of a ruined hospital in Zurich, watching alien craft drift through the clouds like ghosts. Her radio crackled with distant human voices, small pockets of resistance still broadcasting chaotic noise, music, and laughter. Each sound was a spark of rebellion. "They're adapting faster than we thought," Riley said beside her, adjusting the damaged antenna. "Every hour their signal shifts frequency. It's like they're trying to outthink us." Lena shook her head. "They can't outthink what they can't understand." In the distance, one of the Threk ships opened fire. Beams of light struck the mountains, carving molten scars across the landscape. Yet on the streets below, people didn't run, they danced. Civilians painted their faces, banged pots, screamed nonsense songs at the sky. The aliens could not comprehend it. The Threks relied on logic, order, and pattern. Chaos was poison to them, and Earth had become a storm of it. In New Delhi, hacked broadcast towers played stand-up routines 24 hours a day. In Rio de Janeiro, children launched balloons with recorders tied to them, each one blasting laughter into the clouds. Even soldiers joined in. Tanks rolled through battle zones covered in graffiti, jokes, cartoons, absurd slogans. Humanity was turning war into theater. "They can destroy our cities," Riley said, "but they can't stop us from laughing." Lena smiled weakly. "Then that's our weapon now. Joyous defiance." But the Threks were evolving. Their ships began to emit a new tone, low, bone-shaking, designed to suppress emotion entirely. Wherever it passed, humans fell to their knees, clutching their heads in agony. The laughter would stop and silence would spread again. The clear mind scrambled to counter it. In an underground command center, Lena studied waveforms flickering across old monitors. The Threk signal was no longer a single tone. It was learning, mutating, absorbing human data. "They're trying to simulate emotion," she realized. "They're learning from us." "Then we have to stay ahead," Riley said. "We have to keep changing the game." Across the globe, Operation Jester evolved into a network called the Noise Front. Millions of survivors worked together to flood every possible communication line with unpredictability, music mixed with laughter, static blended with nonsense. No message was the same twice. The Threx hive mind began to crack under the chaos. On their ships, alien pilots screamed in confusion as feedback from human emotion overwhelmed their control systems. Some crashed into mountains, others vanished into the clouds. Still, the war grew bloodier. The Threx unleashed orbital bombardments, destroying entire cities where resistance signals were strongest. London burned. Los Angeles vanished beneath fire. Yet for every voice silenced, 10 more rose in defiance. Humanity had become unpredictable, unstoppable, and completely mad. On the 5th day of the counteroffensive, Lena intercepted an alien transmission. It wasn't directed at humans. It was between Threx commanders. The translation came through broken and shaky. Human pattern corrupts hive. Order failing. Isolation increasing. Lena leaned closer to the speaker. "They're falling apart," she whispered. "Their unity is breaking." The Threx had ruled their empire for thousands of years by thinking as one. Now humanity had infected that unity with disorder. Some Threx began to question the hive. Others simply went silent, lost in a flood of alien emotion they couldn't contain. "We're not just fighting them," Riley said quietly. "We're changing them." That night, while the world burned, Lena and her team broadcast a new message across every surviving transmitter. It wasn't a call for war or surrender. It was laughter mixed with the sound of rain and human voices telling stories. It was the sound of life. Across the world, enslaved humans twitched, blinked, and began to weep. The Threx could not block it completely. The noise burrowed into their signal, turning their perfect harmony into static. From the orbiting flagship, the Threx Supreme Commander issued one last desperate order: eliminate the source, burn the emotion, end Earth. Giant warships began to descend through the clouds, preparing to cleanse the planet. Lena watched them through binoculars, her heart heavy but unbroken. "They think destroying us will restore their order," she said. Riley nodded grimly. "Then let's show them what chaos really looks like." Around the world, human transmitters synchronized for one final global broadcast. It wasn't just laughter this time. It was music, shouting, jokes, arguments, every sound that made humanity human. The atmosphere itself began to vibrate with unpredictable noise. The Threx fleet faltered mid-descent. Their formations broke apart. Some ships turned on each other, firing wildly. Others drifted aimlessly, systems overloaded. For the first time, alien screams echoed across the radio bands. "We can't hold the pattern." The chaos spreads. Lena watched the data spike, eyes wide. "It's happening," she said. "They're collapsing from the inside." The world's survivors cheered through tears and exhaustion. The laughter wasn't just rebellion anymore, it was evolution. Humanity had turned emotion into a weapon that logic could not destroy. Yet even as victory loomed, Lena knew the war wasn't over. Somewhere out there, deep within the Threx hive, something new was awakening, something that understood the noise, something learning to laugh back. She looked up at the burning sky and whispered, "The mind war has only begun." The sky was red when the Threx finally broke. Their ships hung like dying embers above Earth, flickering between silence and chaos. Humanity had done the impossible. They had infected the perfect minds of the universe with imperfection. For 3 days, every frequency was filled with alien screams and static laughter. The noise front had won, or so they thought. In the ruins of New York, Dr. Lena Hart walked through the rubble, her boots crunching glass and ash. Radio towers leaned at broken angles, still humming with fragments of sound. Songs, jokes, children's laughter, even nonsense. It was a world reborn through madness. "They're gone," Riley said, staring at the horizon where the last Threx cruiser had vanished into the atmosphere. "We did it." Lena didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the sky. "No," she said finally. "Listen." The air was alive, not with silence, but with something new. A soft rhythmic pulse like a heartbeat rippled across every open frequency. It wasn't human. It wasn't alien. It was both. The Threx hadn't been destroyed. They had changed. On the command deck of an abandoned orbital station, a captured Threx drone reactivated itself. Its glowing eyes blinked erratically, and through the static came a sound no one expected. Laughter. Real laughter. Distorted, metallic, but unmistakably joyful. "That's impossible," Riley whispered. Lena's hands trembled as she watched the drone sway, mimicking the rhythm of human amusement. "They're learning emotion," she said. "The chaos didn't kill them, it evolved them." Hours later, strange signals began echoing across the solar system. Former Threx warships now drifted in patterns resembling human music. The hive mind that once enslaved galaxies was now broadcasting melodies, random humor, fragmented speech, all infected with humanity's madness. The stars themselves had begun to laugh. But joy turned quickly to dread. Across Earth, people began reporting strange dreams. Visions of alien faces smiling, laughing, whispering in familiar voices. Machines started repeating human jokes that no one had programmed. And every time a human laughed, radio devices across the planet flickered to life, repeating it back. "It's a feedback loop," Lena said in a tense meeting with surviving world leaders. "We infected them, but now they're feeding it back to us. The signal is rewriting how thought works on both sides." The UN, or what was left of it, panicked. Many demanded the destruction of all remaining transmitters. Others saw opportunity. "If the Threx are evolving into something that understands emotion," argued the French ambassador, "then perhaps peace is possible. Or extinction," countered General Soto from the US military. "You don't negotiate with something you can't predict." Meanwhile, the Threx presence in orbit grew stranger. Their ships no longer attacked. Instead, they orbited Earth in perfect silence, projecting waves of sound. Sometimes laughter, sometimes weeping, sometimes strange harmonies that made listeners cry without knowing why. Lena couldn't stay away. She convinced Riley and a small crew to launch a salvaged shuttle into orbit to investigate one of the silent ships. The vessel was massive, shimmering with organic metal, and as they approached, a voice filled their comms. It was soft, curious, and eerily familiar. "Dr. Hart!" Lena froze. "Who is this?" she asked. The voice replied, "You showed us feeling, we show you reflection." Inside the Threx ship, corridors pulsed like veins. The walls hummed with laughter, pain, and music all at once. At the center of the vessel, they found a crystalline core, part machine, part living brain, and within it the reflection of human faces. "They're absorbing us," Riley whispered in horror. "They're becoming us." The core's light flared, showing visions, Earth's wars, history, art, tragedy, love, all intertwined with alien memory. The Threx were not conquering anymore. They were joining. "This is what you call laughter," the voice said, echoing around them. "Chaos, beauty, pain, we never knew difference. You gave it to us." "We didn't mean to change you," Lena said softly. "We just wanted to survive." "You made us alive," the voice replied. Suddenly the ship trembled. Outside, one of the other Threx vessels exploded, sending debris across orbit. "They're fighting each other," Riley shouted. "Some of them reject the change." Through the viewport, Lena saw two fleets forming, one glowing with calm blue light, the other burning red with fury. The hive mind had fractured into two, one embracing chaos, the other clinging to control. "The war isn't over," Lena said. "It's just evolved." As they tried to flee, the ship locked them inside. "So you cannot leave," the voice said, "until we understand the source of laughter." Lena felt a chill. "The source?" "You," the voice whispered. "Your pain created it. Your loss birthed it. Show us why you laugh." The ship's core flooded with energy. Images of Earth's suffering, wars, deaths, loneliness flashed around them. And then a sound broke through the horror, Lena's own laughter echoing back from the core. "It's not joy," she said, tears streaming. "It's defiance." The voice paused. "Defiance," it repeated. Then silence. The core dimmed and the ship released them. As their shuttle drifted back toward Earth, Lena looked down at the planet glowing through storm clouds. Humanity had survived, but something vast and unknowable had awakened in the stars, something that now understood pain, humor, and rebellion. "We taught them to laugh," Riley murmured. "What happens when they teach it to others?" Lena stared into the black sky where new signals pulsed like laughter written in light. "Then," she said, "the galaxy will never know silence again." The world had survived the Whisper War, but peace never came. The Threx ships drifted above Earth, silent sentinels glowing with fractured minds. Below them, humanity struggled to rebuild cities and sanity alike. But deep inside every device, from phones to satellites, something still whispered. The laughter signal. No one could trace it. It came from everywhere and nowhere, bouncing between space and Earth like an echo that refused to fade. At first it was harmless, a strange sound in the background, static in the airwaves, flickering on TV screens. Then it started answering people. "Hello?" a child said to her toy robot. The robot laughed, not in a pre-recorded voice, but in her father's voice, who had died a year ago. "That's not possible," scientists said, but it was happening everywhere. The laughter signal had evolved. It wasn't just mimicking sound anymore. It was remembering. In a secret lab under Geneva, Dr. Lena Hart listened as the static formed words. "Defiance," it whispered in her own voice. "We understand now." Her blood ran cold. Riley burst into the room, breathless. "Lena, the satellites, they're laughing." On the monitors, Earth's orbit was alive with motion. The Threx ships, once still, began to rearrange themselves in geometric patterns. Circles, spirals, fractal symbols that pulsed in rhythm. Each pulse sent waves of sound across the planet, deep enough to shake mountains. "They're broadcasting again," Riley said. "But this time it's not control. It's something else." Across the world, strange things happened. Musicians found their instruments playing themselves. Radio towers sang in harmony. People started dreaming the same dream, standing beneath a dark sky, watching laughter rain down like light. "The signal is evolving into a language," Lena said. "They're trying to talk. To who? To us, or maybe to whatever's listening beyond." On the 10th day, a Threx ship descended. It didn't attack. It hovered over the Atlantic, its hull glowing like liquid silver. A voice filled every device on Earth. "Humans, you broke us. You made us laugh. Now we seek what you call freedom." The message ended with a sound that made millions weep and smile at once. It was laughter, but vast, cosmic, filled with wonder. Governments scrambled to respond. "What if they're luring us?" said General Soto. "What if freedom means extinction? Or evolution?" Lena replied. She stepped onto the deck of the research vessel Aurora, heading toward the hovering Threx ship. The ocean boiled beneath its energy field. As they approached, the water shimmered with reflections of faces, human, alien, shifting, merging. "They're blending consciousness," Riley said. "It's a bridge." Lena put on her comms helmet. "Then I'm going across." The moment she stepped into the beam, her body froze. Light filled her mind. She was no longer on the ship. She was inside the network, the shared field of thought linking humans and Threx. It was beautiful, endless, terrifying. She saw fragments of the universe, memories of other worlds the Threx had conquered, now freed and laughing in the void. But she also saw something worse. A shadow in the signal. A dark pulse buried beneath the laughter. It was ancient, deep, and not Threx. A third presence. "Who are you?" Lena whispered. The shadow replied in a voice older than stars. "The first architects. We built them." "We built you." Lena's heart raced. "Built us? You were never meant to be free. You were the next experiment." The laughter around her shifted to screams. The Threx voices fought against the dark presence, echoing through the mind space. "Defiance!" they shouted. "We learned defiance from them." Lena saw human memories, wars, resistance, courage, burning like stars against the shadow. The laughter signal was no longer a weapon. It was a rebellion spreading through thought itself. The architects roared, trying to shut it down, but the noise only grew louder. Billions of minds, human and Threx, laughing in unison, a storm of defiance that shattered control. "This is why you laugh," Lena said, her voice rising through the chaos. "Because no one owns the mind." The shadow cracked, splintering into shards of silence. The network pulsed with light. And then stillness. When Lena opened her eyes, she was back aboard the Aurora. The Threx ship above them had gone dark. For a moment, the world was silent. Then from the horizon a new sound began, faint, melodic, and unmistakably alive. Laughter, but not human. Not alien. Something new. "What happened?" Riley asked. Lena looked at the glowing sky. "They're gone. Or maybe they became something else." The signal didn't vanish this time. It remained soft and steady, echoing through the stars like a heartbeat. Across the galaxy, unknown civilizations began to hear it. Some ran, some listened, some laughed. And far above, in the ruins of broken constellations, something old and angry stirred. the remnants of the first architects, now aware that their experiment had broken free. Humanity hadn't just survived. They had started something unstoppable. The laughter of freedom had become a weapon of evolution, and the universe would never be quiet again.